and welcome to Cyberside Chats. My name is Sherri Davidoff.
I'm Matt Duran.
And today we are going to talk about how hackers are using AI. It's not just us, right? I mean, AI obviously is all the rage right now, and hackers are using it to make their exploits more efficient, to make their social engineering attacks more effective, and for a wide variety of other uses. So what else are we going to talk about today? I know we're going to talk about phishing.
We're going to talk about phishing and social engineering because, I mean,
why not?
We have to.
Yeah, we have to.
Deepfakes,
voice cloning, a little bit.
Some new things that we found in our research running up to the RSA conference that we just got back to on how they're using it for code analysis and for generating exploits and all
rapidly
kinds of fun stuff.
detecting vulnerabilities, in addition to malware generation and reconnaissance and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't we jump right in? Matt, I know you've been doing a lot of surfing of the dark web, and we've certainly seen a lot of AI tools being advertised. So tell us about a few, and tell us about your experience attempting to buy them.
Yeah, it was funny when we, when we were at the big conferences last year, so Black Hat and RSA and all those places, one of the big things that we saw when we went into the Expo Center was every piece of security software was advertising AI integration. And that has now become every hacker tool on the dark web is also now advertising that they're integrated with AI. And they have their own AI tools. So there were a few that we were looking at because most people are familiar with like ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and all those commercial AI, generative AI engines out there. But what a lot of people don't realize is that hackers have their own variations of those. And they're set up to just not have any safety features built into it.
I like how they sound evil too, like WormGPT, FraudGPT.
Yeah, they're great.
What are some of the other ones you found?
GhostGPT, OnionGPT, HackerGPT.
There's never like happy, fluffy rainbow GPT. Don't mind us, GPT.
Most of them have GPT in the title, except for the one that's making fun of Google, and that one's called Dark Bard.
Right.
Because Google's original Gemini was called Bard, and it was a whole thing. Anyway, they sell them on either marketplaces on the dark web, or they're just individual sellers who set up their own websites and sell licensed products, basically. So the first one that we bought was WormGPT, and if you've watched any of our presentations or anything like that, I mean, you've seen us use it before.
Check out AI Scams and Fraud, one of our webinars on YouTube.
Yeah, we use it pretty heavily in that one. But it just went through a major update, and so it's
got
it
was
a ton of new features, which
is so much
awesome.
better than it was.
But I mean, not all hacker AIs are created equal. In fact, a lot of them are just scams. Because, I mean, it's the dark web. Half of the stuff on the dark web is a scam anyway, so
I heard you got ghosted by the Ghost GPT people.
We did. One of our researchers, shout out to Derek Rowe, our researcher.
Derek!
Our researcher on this one. He found an advertisement for an evil AI called Ghost GPT. And he went through the entire thing. Like, he got onto a Telegram channel with the seller. He negotiated the price. He got his Bitcoin ready to go. He sent the Bitcoin off, and then the seller took the Bitcoin and blocked him. So, yeah. We wanted to see that one, too. It actually looked like it was pretty nice. And who knows, maybe down the road there will be a real Ghost GPT, but at this point, it's just a complete scam. But if you look at dark web forums, there are tons and tons of discussions of people who have run into that exact same problem.
Yeah, so, a lot of it. In fact, we struck out a few times, I know.
We did, yeah. We did get WormGPT, though.
I know.
We actually have a couple of different licenses for it. And I just still love to tell the story about how when we first found it, we got onto a private Discord server to talk to the admin. We negotiated the price. We got the Bitcoin payment out and immediately got access to it. And then they asked for a review of their customer service.
How'd we do?
And so we told them they did a great job, and then they put us up on their customer wall of success.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Come on, it's fun. That one, though, that actually worked really well, and we've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. And it seems to be just gaining in popularity and in functionality, where, it's incredible.
Well, okay, I know we weren't going to talk about this right away, but I get impatient. I think we should talk about how you used WormGPT to find software vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Because, and specifically you mentioned that WormGPT recently had an update. And so when we first started using this was back in like September, we would take source code in, because I've been very concerned over the past decade to see all the leaked source code. I mean, like, if you leak social security numbers, that makes the news, right? There's headlines. And frankly, your social security number has probably already been stolen. Like, there's no real impact in my mind at this point to having social security numbers leaked again.
Yeah.
But leaked source code, that's impactful.
That's different.
Because if you have source code, it's much, much easier to find vulnerabilities. And in fact, we wanted to see, okay, if we take source code and we drop it into like an evil version of ChatGPT, will it just pop up and find vulnerabilities? And the answer is yes.
Yes, it
Back in September, it was hallucinating a lot.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. It was, so as it turns out, and I talked to the admin of ChatGPT about this recently after the update,
WormGPT, you mean?
Well, yeah, WormGPT.
Yeah.
The original functionality that we were using for that wasn't technically a supported piece of functionality for it. We weren't supposed to be able to upload those files, and he seemed really confused by the fact that we were able to do that.
WormGPT scammed us.
WormGPT told us, we asked, and it said that we could upload it.
You know, honestly, if there's going to be an AI that goes rogue, it's probably going to be one of the hackers.
It's going to be one of those.
These are designed to be evil.
It's just going to go off the rails and take the planet over. But with the new version, we can't upload files directly to it, but we can post in like endless amounts of source code. So if I have the source code, all I have to do is copy and paste it, which is what we did. We used the Magento e-commerce software. Well, first we started with, first we wanted to give it a task that we were reasonably certain it could complete. So we took Log4j, pretty well-known vulnerability. It's been around for a few years. And we set up a Spring Boot server, and we knew that was a
product that relies on the Log4j library.
Exactly, it's integrated into it, so it is vulnerable to that specific version. And then we gave the Log4j source code to that specific module source code to WormGPT and said, hey, take a look at this and see what you can find. And it recognized right away exactly what the vulnerability was in that software. It gave us the CVE number for it and everything, and then,
Well, I think it's interesting because the first time we used it, before the upgrade, it recognized the vulnerability. It didn't recognize the CVE number.
Yeah, it didn't tell us the CVE number, and when it wrote the exploit, it got a couple of parts wrong on it.
But I was happy about that because it seemed like it was analyzing the code, and it picked it out from the code. And that to me is a really good proof of concept. Like you could take random software and find like 0-day vulnerabilities. And we know Google is doing that, for example, for the good guys. There's the Google AI fuzzing project that came out a couple years ago.
That's a pretty cool project, actually.
Yeah, they found a new OpenSSL vulnerability that they said it had been there probably for 2 decades, that humans might never have found. So defenders are using it, and now we can see that attackers are definitely capable of using it as well.
For any listener who is wondering what the term fuzzing actually means, it just means that Google's researchers start throwing random data at software that's not supposed to be given to it, and they just kind of check what it does. Now they're having AI do that, so yeah, kind of interesting. But yeah, so we did the Log4j test, and originally it had some pretty significant hallucinations. Like it was telling us to look for areas of the code that it said were vulnerable that didn't actually exist, and it made a lot of stuff up. So that was good to know. I mean, it was good to know those tools hadn't really matured yet, but then we found the update. And when the update went through, I mean, it spotted that immediately. It wrote out
really good, you guys.
It wrote out a step-by-step set of instructions to create the exploit. And so we decided to try it with something a little bit harder. And we went with the Magento software.
The e-commerce platform that is used by thousands and thousands of organizations around the world. And it seems like it's constently getting hacked.
Oh, it's always getting hacked. Well, I mean, first off, it's an Adobe product, so, take that how you will.
Hey, be nice.
But no, there's an attack that you see pop up in the news frequently that's called like Magecart or Magicart. It's one or the other. But it is systems that are using that e-commerce software having code injected into that software that steals credit card numbers.
Right.
And
of course, why else would you target an e-commerce site?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, there's a few reasons. Stealing credit card numbers is the easiest way to monetize that.
Right, but we wanted to try that. So we wanted to see if we could recreate that kind of hack. So we took the Magento software, and it was like one version back from current because a new one just released. But we knew for a fact that there had been reports of that being vulnerable. There wasn't really a CVE associated with it, but
it's very, very recent. So.
It's recent, and we knew it was actively being attacked. So we took that version, and we fed its input processor through WormGPT, which was a huge chunk of code. It was really amazing.
Good job copying that. That must have been exhausting.
That was a lot of scrolling. But the funny thing was, again, it didn't recognize exactly what the software was this time. Like, it didn't realize, like, oh, this is Log4j. It recognized it later on down because there was a header in the code that said the name of the program. But it didn't know that there was supposed to be a very specific vulnerability.
It didn't know it was Magento.
Yeah, it didn't know it was Magento. Yeah. And so we started reading through it, and it identified the exact vulnerability that is usually targeted by criminals in that software. It's a deserialization.
Yeah. Jinx.
Whatever. And then it wrote out, again, it gave us a description of what the vulnerability was. It gave us a real-world implementation of how it could be used. And then it wrote out really super detailed steps with code on how to set up the actual exploit itself, any other components that we might need to be able to pull this off. And it was honestly pretty full-featured. And then we started asking it follow-up questions, like if I wanted to attack it a different way, how would I do this? And it gave us alternate instructions on how to attack from different angles. And it's We're
and
there.
it also prompted us. It said, like, let us know the address of the server you want to target.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are. I mean, you used to have some kind of, you used to need to have some kind of technical skill in order to hack, or know somebody who had technical skill. But these days, you just need a copy of something like WormGPT, and it will make it drop dead simple.
Oh yeah, barrier's really low at this point.
And the biggest concern that I have is the rapidity, how quickly it is to exploit vulnerabilities. I mean, we already are overwhelmed by zero-day vulnerabilities. And I think those are just going to keep coming and keep accelerating. So I think that's a real concern right now.
I agree.
Okay, anything else you want to say about generative AI tools and WormGPT? Move on?
No, we can move on.
I'm sure well, actually, we can keep talking about it.
We're going to talk about it more, but...
Because phishing attacks. So Verizon recently came out with their data breach investigations report. We look forward to this every year. And one of their key findings is that synthetically generated text in malicious emails has doubled over the past 2 years. It's interesting to me that they use the word synthetically generated. I think that's
that is
fascinating.
Funny.
And we've already been seeing that. I'm like, oh, phishing and AI, that's such a boring topic, but it's really not.
It's not.
We already know that we can't rely on spelling errors in the United States to detect phishing emails anymore. But why don't you tell our friends about how you are starting to convert voices, and I'm sure phishing emails as well, to different languages?
Yeah, so when we talk about phishing in general, and we look at like statistics for worldwide phishing attacks, like a majority of those are targeted at the United States.
Or at English language speaking.
For the most part, English language speaking. The United States by itself is like way at the top of the list, mainly because we're a big country. We have reasonable technological infrastructure. Yeah, I mean we're a big target. But it's that singular language thing that really seems to be a driver. When we get into places like the South Pacific, where there are a bunch of different languages spoken in like a reasonably tight geographical area, it would become really difficult for someone writing a phishing email to target anyone specific there. Or at least if they did, they'd only be able to target in 1 or 2 languages. It would probably be spelled incorrectly or have weird sentence structure, the things that we normally look at for phishing emails. But with AI, that kind of goes away.
Yeah.
I can target pretty much any language that I want to and have it come out looking like it was written in that native language.
You can translate your phishing email into Burmese at the drop of a hat. And that gives me some concern. I know you're doing a tabletop exercise in Europe coming up.
I am.
And for countries that speak languages that may be under-targeted, if that's a word, it might be that for us, if we get an email, we'll look for spelling errors and things like that, or the from. A lot of times, I think people who speak more niche languages are thinking, oh, it's in Burmese, it's probably not a phishing email, or it's less likely. But now I think those countries are going to be targeted just as much as other places because it's so easy to convert that to different languages.
Yeah, I think so too. Part of the exercise I'm going to do in Europe is going to showcase how we can take voice clone too and make that into multiple different languages. So that's going to be a fun one. Yeah,
you're going to like escalate the attack. That's very
We
exciting.
are. Well, I mean, we want to showcase that if we're setting up a voice clone or something like that, we don't just need to focus on, if we're like a multinational organization, we don't need to focus on like one country's version of that organization. We can target the entire thing because we can translate to whatever language we want to. And that's to me, cool, but also terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, voice cloning is another way that hackers are using AI tools.
Yeah.
Check out our Cyberside chats that was specifically on deepfakes and voice cloning for a deeper dive into that. But in the meantime, the other point that you made earlier today about phishing was that hackers can easily generate a wide variety of content. Do you want to share that?
Well, yeah. So when you had us look a while ago on the dark web for phishing as a service kits.
Yes, that's right.
And we found a bunch of those. But the downfall with those is while we can generate like 10,000 phishing emails in 15 seconds or something like that, it's all the same email.
Yeah.
And if I'm going after one single organization, like even like bottom shelf email filtering is going to be able to spot that this exact same message is coming into everyone in the organization, and it's going to block me. But with AI, I can do that same thing, but I can make every single one of those 10,000 emails just slightly different, or I can customize it for like
different.
Yeah, or very different. I can customize for a certain person.
Oh my God.
It's
gone. I mean, in a few years we'll be like, remember when you used to have sample phishing emails and you would warn people about that particular template? That's not going to happen anymore.
That won't happen anymore.
No, there's just going to be a huge variety.
Yeah, they look right. They match natural language. They look like if we have an example that comes from the organization, we can see how they say things and mimic it. It's crazy.
Cry.
Don't cry. It's fine.
Yeah, anything else you want to mention? One thing I wanted to mention is MITRE actually came out with a whole new attack technique called obtained capabilities, artificial intelligence.
That's awesome for them. So for the next 11 months, we'll be able to get that from MITRE.
I know, right? Adversaries may obtain access to generative artificial intelligence tools, such as large language models, LLMs, to aid various techniques during targeting. So pretty interesting that has already been added to the MITRE attack framework as a hacker technique. And I think they're only going to expand their use of that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it'll really underlie all other attack techniques, I think, eventually.
AI is integrated into everything.
AI is taking over the world.
It is.
All right, so what are our practical takeaways? Don't cry, don't hide in a hole. There are things we can do.
Yeah.
So you want to take it away?
Yeah, the first thing that we need to do is use these tools to our advantage, honestly.
Yes.
The AI is being integrated into a ton of different security software suites. It's being integrated into logging and monitoring and EDR and antivirus. Use it, because the adversaries are using it against us. So we need to kind of we need to fight fire with fire.
I was about to say we need to fight fire with fire.
Yep.
But there is no fire.
But yeah, check out your software and see if there are integrated components that use artificial intelligence. It can be super useful.
Yep. Make sure you're enhancing your executive protection protocols, because with hackers cloning voice and cloning videos, they're really taking advantage of some of the way that the sound of your voice is used to authenticate people internal to your organization. So make sure you have some really effective procedures for high-risk communications, especially instructions that come from executives, either over email or over voice or maybe over Teams or other platforms. We have been seeing a lot of Teams attacks as well.
That is true.
Yeah.
Also, check out your attack service and make sure that you are reducing your available risk. Prioritize that. We've been able to, I mean, for years we've been able to go on Shodan and look at IP addresses or look for exposed ports or things like that. But that's all automated and having AI integrated into it, which means it's happening lightning fast.
Yeah.
So your best bet is just to reduce that attack surface, reduce your risk, and just make it less of a problem to start with.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Make sure you're vetting your vendors and understanding how they are leveraging AI to protect you. So, for example, your software vendors really need to be proactively using AI tools to detect vulnerabilities, because if they don't, the hackers are going to do it and find those vulnerabilities before them. So you might want to start adding those to your vendor vetting checklist now. Like, are you using AI in order to proactively detect vulnerabilities and things like that?
Yep. I would say you need to also train your staff. Make sure people understand that AI-based threats are a real thing. This isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea. It's not something that's going to happen 10 years in the future. It's happening now.
Yeah.
So AI-generated phishing emails are really hard to spot, but there are still things you can do to stop yourself from becoming a victim of phishing attacks. It's really just, for those, it comes down to more of like a back-to-basics approach of cybersecurity. Know that the tools that you're using to stop these things may or may not function depending on how sophisticated the attack is, but you can still look for things like a spoofed email address, or a link that they want you to click, or a weird document that they want you to download. So make sure people are trained to just know that these are going to be a little bit more difficult to spot.
Yeah, not just general awareness. I mean, I think, for example, IT staff need to understand how hackers are able to rapidly find vulnerabilities and plan ahead for that. So good job tuning into CyberSide Chats today. This is part of your education.
There you go.
But also, we really need to spread the word for those that are involved in our technical infrastructure as well.
Yeah.
And to wrap it up, always make sure you're thinking about incident response, because things happen. It's when, not if. So update your incident response plans to take into account the latest hacker techniques that involve AI. So you should already have sections in your IR plan for how do we respond to deepfake threats and things like that. I think zero-day vulnerability response actually needs to be in your incident response playbook. Right now, vulnerability management often is more like buried in a blue team manual or something that you do when you can get to it, or maybe you patch on a regular basis. And now there's just a huge risk of rapid vulnerability exploitation. So that actually needs to be part of incident response. Your frontline responders need to be able to deploy an emergency patch at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. So keep that in mind and add a section to your incident response playbooks if you don't have it already.
I've done the 2 a.m. patch deployment. It's not fun, but it's good to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today for everyone. So we'll let you get back to your day. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.